I'm going to go to present. How AI reads your technical resume is what we're going to go through here today. My agenda. So we're Elite Resumes. We write experienced engineers' resumes for free. My background, I write the largest career advice newsletter in the US. Goes out to a few million people every Monday morning. Written Amazon #1 bestsellers on resumes and interviews. Founder of IO Soho meetup. If any of you have ever attended IO Soho, New York's largest iOS meetup. And I'm interested in careers, interested in tech. From running IO Soho, it really became obvious to me that engineers, while terrific at a lot of things, are awful at their resumes, as most professionals are. So past few years, I've focused a lot on tech resumes. I've got and tonight specifically, I've got two daughters. Thought I'd mention. Middle names are Lovelace, after Countess Ada of Lovelace, the world's first software programmer, and Grace, after Grace Hopper. So I hope they get to join you guys at Women Who Code someday in the future. And again, we're Elite Resumes, do free resume talks, free resume rewrites for experienced engineers. So tonight, the agenda is how AI reads your resume. What we're going to go through is, what is a resume? How is AI used in reading those resumes? We're going to review Google's top search result for software engineer resume. I'm going to show you what a great technical resume optimized for AI looks like. Maybe to Elizabeth's comment about the scan came back and said you were a legal professional. And walk you through step by step the differences and why, and then take your Q&A. Sound good, everybody? Great. So what is a resume? A resume is an advertisement to your future boss to get you an interview for a job you can succeed in. And that's it. A lot of times, because the resume is the main written document about our lives, we can be led astray and think, look, it's got to be my bio. It's got to be my life story. It's got to be my narrative. A resume is simply an advertisement whose goal is to get you interview requests. And that's it. Everything about, you're not going to get hired off your resume alone. You're not going to get a job offer off your resume alone. Your resume is there to get you interview requests. Anything that increases your ability to get interview requests is awesome on your resume. Anything that spends time or precious space on something else doesn't belong in your resume. So how is AI used in reading resumes? AI is a little bit of a misnomer. Really think, if you're familiar with Elasticsearch, really think kind of Elasticsearch plus. AI is used to augment the human, not replace the human. And that, in this field, within HR and resumes, that makes it different than something like DeepMind and Winning Go. If you've seen the headlines over the last few years, hey, first we figured out how to get a computer to beat the world champion in chess, and then Go was the next one, and they've progressively gotten better and better at beating humans at everything. And that's a fantastic success. How are those lines coming up on my screen? That's fantastic success. But Go and chess have a specific set of rules that exist that makes it easy for AI to kind of replace a human. In HR, in resumes, it's different in that the goal is never really determined. The recruiter or hiring manager or engineering manager reviewing your resumes doesn't have a specific set of hard-coded rules that they're reviewing. Typically sort, not exclude for applications. The AI, to the extent there's AI in the process, and it helps a hiring manager prioritize resumes rather than just throw out resumes automatically. And it provides fuzzy, expansive search when a hiring manager types in software programmer, and effectively it expands that to include software engineer, software developer, etc. And I do not know how this line got here on the screen. I'm going to stop the share for a half second. I'm going to come back and see if that got rid of the line. It did. So great. So how is resume reading AI coded? So this is a really deeply fascinating topic to me. I've interviewed the top 5 resume parsing companies, their CEOs and technical experts. The names of the companies are TextKernel, Daxtra, Sovereign, HireTool, and HireAbility. There's a lot of detail that goes on behind the scenes. If you find yourself after this, like, I really want to know, that wasn't enough, please give me more. I've got a 4,000 word interview with those experts at bit.ly/resume parser CEOs to dig into. But summarizing it for you, how is AI implemented? It's a means for understanding things, skills, credentials, titles. They create ontologies, what things go together. So if the parser sees React and JavaScript on a resume, it knows that, well, this is somebody who might know front-end engineering. And those are sorted together concepts that the parsers and AI use to understand what things are similar. They also use taxonomies. It's, hey, once we know what's similar, then how do we organize things? A front-end software engineer is a type of engineer, which is a type of role within technology, which is a type of white-collar role. And those taxonomies are helpful in search and AI understanding of who you are and what you do. So what that means from this is, the implication of that is, when it comes to keywords, and there's a lot of urban legends and tales about how to use keywords on resumes, their presence is required, and you can mess this up, and we'll talk about this in a second, but stuffing is ineffective. Like the old joke about, you know, how many SEO experts does it take to change a light bulb, a light, a bulb, a shining thing? You don't have to come up with so many different synonyms for everything that you do. The software is pretty effective at doing that itself. So the biggest AI errors that users make when writing their resumes. First, did not include data. The AI can't read it if it's not there. Here are 4 examples, live examples from literally the past 60 days that I've seen users make. Left out MySQL and every other database from their technologies list because it's too obvious. Everybody knows MySQL, right? Everybody knows something like MariaDB. You know, I don't have to put that on my resume. Everybody knows that you kind of know that. Well, no, when particular companies or engineering managers are looking for somebody, if it's not on your resume, it's not obvious to the AI, you got to have it on there. Didn't list promotions from job to job. So I had somebody who was at a role 8 years, I think right out of college, and at this point was a lead software engineer. And that's the only title that they had. And I asked, well, look, didn't you come in as something other than a lead software engineer when you graduated college? Well, yes, of course. And been through promotions from junior software engineer to software engineer to software engineer 2 to senior to lead. That those promotions are a great signal to companies that you were respected and helpful at your prior employer. Providing that information to the AI so that they can know, hey, here's the progression of steps in their career. Hey, multiple promotions, very helpful. But if you don't include it, they don't know. Forgot to mention 800 citations on that Google paper. So a lot of times, in general, you're not including papers on a commercial resume. That's different from an academic CV. But this person had a paper at Google that they'd written. And my original advice was, look, you shouldn't have that on there because it's not peer reviewed. And it turned out it was peer reviewed. They hadn't mentioned that it was published, and that had been cited 800 times. That puts that paper, that type of production, into a completely different category than, hey, I wrote a paper internally at work. If you don't have the data on there, it's difficult for the AI to know. Didn't include university because nobody knows the name of the university in the US. This person literally didn't have their bachelor's degree on their resume because they'd gone to school in Africa and graduated in the early 2000s. You said, well, nobody knows the name of the school, so I'm not going to include it on there. It's a mistake. The AI can't know that you're a college graduate unless you've included that on there. So that's one of the biggest AI errors that users make. The next biggest AI error that users make is clever formatting. AI can't read it if it can't read it. If you've ever worked with crawlers, scrapers, parsers of any type in your day job, you know that crawlers, scrapers, parsers really greatly prefer simple. The more complex things are, the more difficult it is for them to understand. We'll go through this in detail in a little bit, but simple is far, far better in formatting than complex when it comes to AI's understanding your resume. Did not include desires. So you can't show in searches if you're absent. So desired job titles, desired work capabilities. So I mentioned that resumes are an advertisement to your future boss. One of the mistakes that we often make in writing resumes is we just list our past job titles. But if you think about a resume as an advertisement, you're advertising for a future job. So if today you're a software engineer level 2 and you're going for a senior software engineer role, you need to mention, I'm looking at senior software, I'll show you how to do it, but senior software engineer, senior software developer, senior software programmer, because when engineering managers or hiring managers are looking to hire a senior software engineer, they type in senior software engineer. They don't type in software engineer level 2. I know it sounds unbelievably obvious. And if you're in the business, it is obvious. But if you're like you and your day job's engineering and you're not really spending way too many hours understanding resumes and parsers, it's easy to miss, very easy to miss. So software engineer resume template, if you Google it, here's Google's top result for Tabitha Hervanen. And kind of a typical 2021 resume. If you go on Product Hunt, there'll be a lot of tools that produce resumes that look like this. Unfortunately, it's very, very wrong. And I'll go through with you in detail here about the AI errors and other errors made in this top search result. And it's cutting off the top a little bit, and I think we can survive that. So first off, 3-column format breaks the resume parser. This is really not obvious to anybody in tech. I mean, it's 3 columns. How difficult can that be? What happens is the structure of your MS Word or Google Docs tends to be that when you make tables, these date columns in the tables are in their own row of cells. When a parser parses this, all of your dates come out in one cell and glom together, and then all of your experience comes out in the next cell, all glommed together. As a result, AI can't tell when you worked where. Not at all visually obvious, but if you're a little bit familiar with the structure of word processing documents, maybe a bit more obvious. This 3-column format breaks the resume parser, ends up turning it into gobbledygook. Email here is unclickable. By using a blue background, adding that bit of color to kind of try to stand out, it's not clickable. A common simple error. For an engineer resume, showing LinkedIn versus showing GitHub is wrong. LinkedIn should be a subset of the information that's on your resume. You don't need to include that link here. Your GitHub is quite interesting to people who are hiring engineers to see your experience, activity, any projects that you have. Only mentions, Tabitha's resume here only mentions 5 technologies for 4 years of experience. Typically 4 years experience, we like to see something more like 15 to 20 technologies. You've done enough in technology at that point to have 15 or more that you feel proficient in. Tabitha here's only mentioned 5. when that engineering manager is going through and doing searches on people who understand Redis or JavaScript or Node.js, not gonna pull up Tabitha's resume because she's left it off by only listing 5 technologies. If it's not on the resume, AI can't read it. This is a big one, visual representation of skills data. A lot of folks love how this looks, to have these graphic bars that, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5 kind of communication. AI and parsers can't read those. They can't tell that it's 4 out of 5. They don't know what that means. Actually, they think that's some type of formatting for them to delete. Solid block of paragraph text up at the top. It's not a problem for the parsers as much as it is for the humans. Humans tend to ignore solid blocks these days. Professional headline is de-emphasized. We talked about the importance of saying, here are the roles that I'm going for. So Tabitha at this point, 4 years into her career, coming on 5, been a software engineer for a while, probably looking to be a software engineer too, maybe senior software engineer. That ought to be mentioned under her name, senior software engineer as her headline rather than software engineer. Help the AI, help the person searching by telling them the job that you're going for. Lacks numbers throughout the resume, very little in terms of numerical quantification of performance. Location is missing. If Tabitha is looking to work in New York, ought to have New York on here. If Tabitha is looking to work remote, ought to have remote on here. By not having the location on there, it makes it difficult for people reading your resume to understand where it is that you'd like to work and what you're open to. The achievements, here only take up 25% of the space because Tabitha's gotten so into the format and the visual design, has shrunk the amount of space available for actual information down to less than 25% of the resume. That's actually what's going to get you hired. So that's a mistake to only have 25% of your resume focusing on that. Certificates, interests, foreign languages don't need separate sections for either the human or the AI. The AI can read it whether it's in a separate section or not. And for the human, effectively you're taking up 15% of the resume by putting these into separate sections rather than just making them line items. And most importantly, Tabitha has copy and pasted the job description from her past jobs as her bullet points instead of focusing on performance. By copy and pasting the job description for both the human and the AI, you're limiting yourself to being hired for the stuff you did in the past, as opposed to the stuff that you're available to do in the future. And so we'll talk about that a bit more in a second. So what is an effective AI resume? It's one that meets the parser's needs and one that meets the human's needs. So again, the human is really in the driver's seat when it comes to thinking about how is AI used in resumes, because compared to, for example, the rules of chess or the rules of Go, which have been static for several centuries, your resume is changing every day effectively, but certainly from year to year, your resume changes. Jobs change, like they exist, they're open for 8 weeks or so, and then they disappear. So as a result, a human is at the center of this, trying to match job descriptions that they're looking to hire for to resumes that they have available. Parsers are put there to help. Parsers and AI are put there to help the human. And so an effective AI resume meets both human and AI needs. This is this example of what a great AI effective resume looks like. Stephanie Wozniak, she mentions where she lives or works, has her information up at the top, clear, easy to read. The entire resume is easy to scan. That's great for the human. Accomplished lead engineer up at the top tells us what it is that Stephanie's going for. And let's go through this in great detail here. So what's your future boss looking for? So future boss is looking for someone looking for the job title that she is looking to fill. She's got an open role, looking to hire. She wants somebody who wants that job title. Now, I know that sounds totally obvious to you, and that anytime you applied for a job, look, I'm a software engineer, I applied for software engineer too. It's kind of obvious. I want that job. So you think that, but I can guarantee you that that engineering manager or that recruiter spoke yesterday to somebody with the exact same background that you had, and it turns out that they really want to become a product manager, or they're really looking to move over into DevOps. You got to be completely obvious and make it explicit what job titles you're looking for. What's your future boss looking for? Someone who's achieved results that she needs from her team. So she's got goals here in 2021. She's got results that she has to achieve. She's looking for somebody who can help achieve those results. Looking for someone who can communicate those achievements professionally. Communication, particularly as we've all been remote this last year, communication has become more important than ever. So being able to communicate effectively, and that doesn't mean that you have to be a novelist or a funny person or a stand-up comedian who can write humorously. It does mean that you need to be able to communicate professionally. We'll talk about what that means. And she's looking for somebody who's a little bit better than everybody else in the pile. Typical job, hiring managers are looking through 50, 100 resumes, looking for who is a little bit better than everybody else in the pile. So let's talk about what that means. So looking for a job with this title. Again, it's obvious to you. It's not obvious to others. Declare it explicitly. So Stephanie's resume, she's got a professional headline, accomplished lead engineer, very succinctly tells us who this person is. 4 job titles you'd accept. So senior site reliability engineer, lead DevOps engineer, senior DevOps, head of DevOps. Makes it very clear, here are the jobs that I'm appropriate for, that I'm advertising for. It's important. So most of your resume, you can go with it with the advertising. Hey, I'm stretching a little bit. I'm taking that capability I had and I'm saying I'm going to be able to do a little bit more with that next year than I did in the last year. That's all fine. The one place that for both the human and the AI, you need to be absolutely precisely accurate and punctilious in your in how truthful you are is the past job titles that you had. If Stephanie had joined Twitter in 2011 in New York and was the only DevOps engineer, I said, look, I was kind of like the head of DevOps in New York. But that wasn't her title. That's an error. That's one of the few things, fibbing about your education or fibbing about what your precise last title or precise title was, are the only things that can trip you up in your career from your resume. Companies will check that, and it can be a disqualifier. You might remember that the CEO of Yahoo got fired 7 years ago for fibbing about the precise degree he got. So she's looking for somebody who achieved results. Important when you're thinking about building your bullet points, do not copy and paste your job description. You're telling both the AI and the humans, here is what I'm able to do. But that might be four or five jobs ago. Instead, what you want to do is demonstrate what you achieved with technology. So, and Stephanie's resume here, about 50% of her resume is taken up with her achievements. List top achievements in your professional summary. Each bullet point should also be an achievement. Achievements should comprise about 50% of the resume. And technologies are not enough. You can't just like list, hey, here are the technologies I have, but you need to be specific about, and to the extent that you can put numbers behind it, all the better, be specific about what it is that you did with the technology. Reduced latency, increased concurrency, improved deployment cycle, as precise as you can be. So communicates achievements. It's important to communicate with data. So like numbers, you're an engineer, a scientific, rational, systems-focused human being here on the planet. Please, please, please use numbers. So worked on site load time. Worked on site load time is not as effective as decreased load time from 700 milliseconds to 322 milliseconds. Use numbers. So digging into Stephanie's resume here. So achievements are denominated in numbers. Numbers show what you achieve for your team and your company. For somebody with 10 plus years of experience, you'll have 25 bullet points. For somebody who's got 2 years of experience, 3 years of experience, you'll have 10 bullet points. Look, it's 2 to 4 bullet points per year of your life. It's important for you to dig through that experience and think about, hey, in that year, what was I able to deliver that I can numerically point to and show, here's how I was successful during my time there. Because that's what hiring managers want to see. Hey, what did this person do? What did this engineer do? What did this technology professional do? Because it gives a sense of what you view as important, what you're able to do, and gives them a sense of scale at which you work. And your hiring manager is looking for somebody who's a little bit better. So be explicit about promotions and include external validation. So in your professional summary, you're going to put 4 capabilities that qualify you for the jobs that you said you're going after. You're going to be explicit about promotions and include any honors, awards, external validation. It's difficult for AI to kind of figure out whether a particular award is valuable or not. That's more for the human, but it is important for your resume. So in review, and then I'll get to your Q&A. On the left is kind of a common popular format here in 2021. On the right is what is effective both with AI and hiring managers. So how to thrive with AI? It's important to be simpler, particularly in your format. Important to make it easy to scan and not have any complex structure in your resume that can trip up either AI or the parser. Important to be data-driven. Important to focus on achievements, not in your format, and to be numbers heavy. That's the right way to format a resume for AI in 2021. Now, the criticisms are going to be, hey, it's boring, it's monochrome, and it's predictable. But, AI likes that. AI likes predictable, it likes boring, it likes monochrome, it's easy for AI to understand. Also, hiring managers and engineering managers and recruiters prefer it. Think about any time that you've been going through a listings app, whether it's seamless or street easy. What you're interested in is that the format stays the same time after time after time. You're not looking for street easy to change the format on you on each listing. You're looking to have the same format, and then, hey, I want to see the photos. I want to see the information in the same format that I'm used to. That makes it easy for me to scan, easy for me to understand, easy for me to make a decision about whether I'm interested. So those are the 2 resumes. So final review here. So how to thrive with AI. Include data. AI can't read it if it's not there. Formatting. AI can't read it if it can't read it, so keep it simple. Include your desires. You can't show up in searches that you're for jobs you're interested in if your desires are absent from your resume. Include all the things. A boring format, compelling bullet points are best, and include keywords related to your next job. So thanks very much. Again, we're Elite Resumes, free resume talks and free resume rewrites for experienced engineers, 2+ years at eliteresumes.com. And I would love to take any and all questions that you have about the topic of resumes.
Yeah, I actually saw a lot of questions in the chat, so I'll just start off trying to capture those, and then we can just open it up to anyone else who wants to say anything. One person asked if they put down their location as just United States, is that a red flag?
So that's a bit odd in current practice. So you'd either put remote, you could put West Coast, East Coast.
I have a follow-up question too, although it wasn't asked. What if you need visa sponsorship, or you have a foreign sounding name, but you don't need sponsorship? Is that something you should address on the resume?
In this day and age, yes. Putting U.S. citizen or authorized to work U.S. in your professional summary is helpful. Okay. Because it's gotten so dramatically different and hard. That is important. So wait, going back to the question. So United States, that means that you're willing to work anywhere? Is that what the question implies? Well, I'm willing to relocate any place in the US. So look, if it's remote, just type remote. If you're currently in Baltimore or New York, I guess, and you're willing to move anywhere in the US, open to relocation could be something you put in your professional summary. Overall, companies don't necessarily entirely believe that. Just from actual experience, people who say I'm willing to move anywhere, when you say, okay, great, we're in Wichita. Well, I didn't mean anywhere, So it's best to be specific about location, and remote counts as location here in 2021. All right, so now I've got the questions up in front of me. Tushta means what do you mean? What do you mean by presence required? So what I meant on that is like keywords, because the next line is stuffing is not required, because keyword stuffing is where people get up the thesaurus, and try to stuff everything that kind of means something similar to what they have on their resume. So that's not required. You don't have to keyword stuff your resume, but having the keywords on your resume, like it is important. MySQL, right? If you know MySQL, the things that you've actually done, the talents you actually have, it is important to get those on there and kind of rack your brain in a way that doesn't assume that the AI or the hiring manager knows anything about you, because they don't. Yun Lee says the multiple column format is really bad for many reasons. I happened to review intern resumes last year, and it says student accepts text only from the resume. Use multiple columns. What's in the first column separates it from the text next to it. Exactly right, Yun. So here's the horrible thing. First thing the resume parser does when it gets your resume is it flattens it into a flat text file. It's the first thing it does. So all that pretty time and effort that you put on it goes away. Can you explain what a parser is? So any type of computer system trying to read a resume needs to be able to ingest that data. So resume parsers exist to say, look, there are as many millions of different formats of resumes as there are professionals in the United States and the world. When we read this resume, we want to know, where did this person work? What was their title? What years do they work there? So a parser ingests that resume data in order to then spit out in a structured format, title, dates, location, bullet points, etc. In addition, it uses ontologies and taxonomies to add metadata around that resume so that it can do additional operations on them and provide additional features and functionality in the search experience. If you graduated from college over 20 years ago from a school not known for technology with a degree in something other technologies, worth to list university or list, I'm sorry, I'm mumbling to myself. Is it worth it to list a university? Yes. Or the programs you got where you got your technology education. I'm reluctant to list my BA in literature from Bard in my graduation year because it ages me out of many jobs. So this is the Y2, I call it the Y2K problem. Any dates before the year 2000 do not belong in your resume in this day and age. We are coming up on the point that cutoff is going to creep up to like 2005. But you must put your college degree on your resume. Otherwise, they'll assume you don't have one, which sells yourself short. Particularly from a great place like Bard. So put Bard, and look, if you have, look, it sounds like you got more than 5 years, but if you have 5 years of experience in technology, that trumps everything that happened with your education 20 years ago. Let's see here. Let's see, I've tried the approach of not listing the graduating year and get back the question, when did you graduate? They figure out in my 40s, I don't hear from them again. Look, ageism does exist in the country. Absolutely. Look, in general, the way to combat ageism is not to try to mimic the behaviors of younger folks, but to mimic the attitudes of younger folks. So, what companies have discovered is things change really, really fast. All of a sudden, things change fast. Happened with the Great Recession. Companies go bankrupt all of a sudden, things happen. We have COVID. And what companies have learned is what I really need in my workforce in 2021 is people who are very, very adaptable. Too often what happens when folks who are older are interviewing is they don't show the signs of adaptability. They talk about technology from the 70s or 80s, talk about all the time, the great times in the past, instead of focusing on what is important, openness and curiosity about technology, a willingness to learn from people younger than themselves, and an ability to contribute to a team. So teamwork, coachability, and curiosity. Leading with those, if they say, hey, what year did you graduate? Well, look, if you're asking me, can I do this job? Let me walk you through my coachability, my adaptability, and my curiosity. Because I think that's what you're actually asking for. Now, look, we know that they're not, but just ignore their question. Illegal, by the way, but ignore their question and just focus on what they're really asking, which is it going to be a pain to work with you because you're going to keep telling us about the glory days of cold fusion.
Can I just point out
please.
that I didn't come to software engineering as a full-time career until after I was 40, and I didn't have any problems getting 2 different jobs.
Yeah.
And the places that are decent don't ask you for that. I have my 2 art history degrees listed on my resume, and I do not have the years. So yeah. I hope that's encouraging to other people. And there was one place that asked me about my graduation year, and it left a bad impression on me that they asked me that. And I do think it is illegal and they shouldn't be asking. And I love your suggestion of just redirecting to what's important.
Yeah.
And then they'll also see that you're a leader.
Right. Look, I'm sure you know by asking my graduation year, that's like illegal. So, you probably don't want to ask that in other interviews. But what I was saying is just move past it. Shazina asks, is someone looking for a job as a junior engineer straight out of boot camp who has no experience yet? How should we be displaying our project on a resume? So I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't know the boot camp or college or master's program graduating resume format. Not what I study, not what I've done research on, not what I'm familiar with. My advice is to follow the guidelines of the boot camp or college or master's program. It is an entirely different market. It's an entirely different resume. Recruiting is different. The whole thing is, why you're hired is different. And I am just not familiar with it. So admitting my own limitations there, not an expert in that area. And that's why elite resumes only focus on 2+ years. So by the time you're 2 years out of college or 2 years out of your master's program or 2 years out of boot camp, your experience becomes more important than your education. And that's what we really know.
Can I just add to that too, since I'm also a boot camp graduate, transitioning from a completely different career path. A lot of what Marc said tonight definitely applies. So instead of listing jobs, you're going to list projects and you're going to talk about the accomplishments, when you worked on those projects in your program. So you were part of a team, and what did you contribute as part of the team on your senior project or capstone project, and listing all of your technologies and talking about how you used and implemented technologies. If you refactored your code and you reduced the number of events in a project you were working on, or you successfully implemented a machine learning library, just make sure you put all those things in.
Bronwyn asks, I thought you wanted to draw the language contained in the job description for the job which you're applying. So recent graduate, that's true, because they want to say what languages do you have experience with. Experience 2+ years. Not wrong, but less effective than a block of technologies at the bottom of your resume that kind of shows a breadth of here are the technologies that I know. Because over your career, as you go from kind of 2 years experience, by the time you get to 20 years experience, the technology, a lot of folks with 20 years experience will push back and say, look, I'm just not even listing technologies because that's not what's important, because I can learn any technology. It's, understanding the architecture and whatnot. And they're not wrong. So like the specifics become unimportant by the time that you're 20 years out. 0 years out, they're hugely important. That project that you did, how did you, what did you use? Python or what? 2+ years out, if you want to include that in your bullet points, it's not wrong, but you're using up space that you could use for other things. And it makes it a little bit more difficult for the engineering manager skimming through the resume, because it's all about skimming through the resume to understand what do you know so far. Stephanie Singer, would you be willing to help product manager who's looking to make a resume more technical with their resume? Well, asking me if I'm willing to help somebody with their resume is that's my curse in life. I will always say yes. I love resumes. So Elite Resumes, if you're a technical product manager, we can help you. If you're not technical manager, coming more from a design background, just ping me. My email address is in the presentation, marc@eliteresumes.com, or Twitter @Cenedella, and happy to help you out, Stephanie. Do you only help US-based engineers? My husband has 10 years experience in software development. We live in the UK. If you've worked with a US company, we can be helpful, and you're looking to work with more US companies. European, Indian, and East Asian resumes are different, very different. And we just don't have the experience capabilities in them yet. For example, in Europe, it's in most of the world, it's common, almost required still, to have a photo on your, they call them CVs, which we don't do here in the States. What if you don't have numeric data to support your work? Well, look, as a professional in 2021, you really have to. For a variety of reasons, we decided in this country to go away from lifetime employment starting about 30 years ago. Lifetime employment was awesome in some ways and awful in others. What was awesome about it is the personnel department moved you around the country, moved you around to different programs, and everything was taken care of for you. What was awful is you worked at a large company, you were a cog in the wheel, you didn't have any agency, you weren't able to do what you wanted to do. Fast forward to 2021. Many of you might think that staying in a job 4 years is a long time now, like impossibly long. Why would I do that? You are in control of your career, and you're responsible for what personnel used to do, which is picking what my next job is, picking what I'm getting exposed to, and moving myself around through my career. Now that you're responsible for your career, it's important that you're able to say, here is what I'm able to do. I reduced latency, I refactored, I killed this many bugs, I increased throughput, whatever it is, it's important for you to be able to express that. So, from this moment forward in your professional career, you got to be thinking about every year, I got to find at least 2 numbers that I changed, that when I'm talking to somebody in an interview, I can tell them what I did. Hey, so, behavioral questions might go, tell me about a time you had to code something that was really difficult and what you did to do it. Well, I had this project I didn't understand. I studied a lot, and I ended up being able to reduce, loss by 73% by doing X, Y, and Z. When you're able to say that to an engineering manager, because remember, your engineering manager, she's looking for somebody who can help her solve her problems on her team and is able to communicate professionally. If you're able to say, I did this, this, and this, and I helped contribute to a 73% reduction in loss, or whatever that number is, you're coming across as somebody who can communicate professionally, communicate effectively, understands their value, and understands what's important. Throughout the rest of your professional career, starting now, find 2 numbers a year that you changed that the company was better, your team was better because you were there, because you changed these two numbers. And I can talk about resumes forever, and so I'm going to. So you might be have heard OKRs. You know, it's this management philosophy, management tool about having objectives and key results. And a lot of tech companies have adopted it. And hey, so each quarter, each year, we have our key results. Well, look, that's great. That's awesome for a company. It is coming to personal careers over the next 10 years. Not only your team having key results, you personally having key results and being responsible for those, and being responsible for being able to communicate your success. How should a new engineer format their resume without experience? Asked Dolly. Again, not my expertise. I'd recommend that you follow your university or boot camps recommendations. Not my area of expertise. When I apply for jobs, I usually put my ethnicity and sexual orientation as anonymous or NA. Does this lessen my chance of getting an interview? You know, how to adjust. So look, I don't know. I'm not an expert. Running a company that does recruiting for a living, or Ladders have been around for 20 years. Companies are dying for non-white, non-male engineers. He's absolutely dying for them. So is it help? I think it's helpful if they know that you're non-white, non-male. At least that's their express preference to us. How about full name versus initials, like Claire Rosario versus CJ Rosario? Great question. There's been some research on first names. Less common first names, and including less common non-Anglo-Saxon first names, sometimes have a tougher time getting through. Whether it's because of pronunciation or fear or bias, we don't know yet, but they can have a tougher time getting through. There's anecdata about, hey, I tried Claire versus CJ and I got more with CJ, or vice versa. Nothing I can really report statistically. Can you please share the AI-friendly CV? It's on Elite Resumes under .com under examples. It's also in this presentation that I'll share with Elizabeth and she'll send around.
Yeah, we can add a link to your presentation in the comments for this event.
Add a link. Okay, great. What if you want to change the career direction, for instance, from software engineer to project manager? How to address the job title on your experience? Getting that change at your current place of work, it's always helpful. Literally, if you're trying to go from software engineer, project manager, I've not seen too many of those before. I've seen project manager to software engineer. You would want to have in your top line project manager, senior project manager, project manager, and other titles similar to it. That's what you're going for, and explain in that professional summary a little bit about your capabilities that make you appropriate for that job. What's the best format in terms of listing experience for someone who is transitioning into the tech industry with no prior experience out of boot camp? Again, I'm not an expert on ex-boot camp resumes. Really would focus on following the advice of your boot camp, because they're experts in it that I'm not. As same question from Bunny, same answer from me.
Can I also interject here a little bit? If you did something in a prior job that is tech related, and that is part of the reason you decide to get excited about tech, that is something that's great to include on your resume. So for example, I was a software support and training engineer in a law firm. That's why I came up as legal in those searches. But something I did when I was there was that I taught myself SQL and started writing raw SQL queries to get information out of the practice management database. So it's great if you could put the technical things that you did in your prior job. And I've heard multiple stories about people who leverage technology in their like social working job or their political campaign job, where they created databases or they automated things with code. A lot of people in science use Python for crunching data. So if you have anything like that, and then it tells the story and it makes it really clear why you're transitioning, how you're transitioning, that this is something natural. This is a natural progression in the story of your career. Obviously, not everyone will have that, but if you do, that's my advice.
Great. Hannah asks if the application system, as you upload your resume, in addition to filling out form for job experience, is the AI reviewing the text field version? Most often the text will be a correction of the parse. In the case where they're asking both, they that's not in the largest ATSs, but the case where there's both, they might be reviewing both. Is one-page resume still a rule of thumb in the AI era? Over 10 years of experience is 2 pages. Under 10 years of experience is 1 page. And the exception on the 10 plus years of experience is if you're 10 years in an individual contributor role, you're a software engineer, and you got other stuff going on in your life, and you really just want to be a software engineer, not software engineer level 2 or senior software engineer or anything. If you're going to stay in that role, then you can stick with a 1-page resume. But other than that, 10 plus years and progressing, 2 pages, under 10 years, 1 page. Hi, does the AI also scan the answers of questionnaire form, which requires when submitting online application? Would have to see the specific example, but in general, again, what AI is doing is taking a resume document, parsing it, and making it understandable and computable. To the extent that when they're asking you a question, they already have it in a database because it's structured data because they asked you. It's probably not going through through an AI as we're talking about tonight. Is there a place where you can put a resume, see how AI would perceive a resume, any such resources? Easiest way is on your Mac to open text edit, copy your resume and paste without formatting is really the easiest way to see. That's how they first view your resume. And as long as things are in order there, that the job title is next to the company, is next to the year, is next to the location, the AI can figure it out. Where it can't figure it out is when, because of the formatting that you had, years of experience are over here, locations over there, job titles over here. For the next step, figuring out like ontologies or taxonomy, every company is their system's so configured that there's not really there's not a tractable way for you to be able to understand how does every company in the world see my resume. Elizabeth?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to ask if they're online parsers to just give you a set, like a general sense. But maybe the answer is you can Google resume parser.
The reason I'm hesitating is that most of them put you into a paid funnel, and they're not entirely the best companies that you want to work with. But I'm not kidding when I just say copy and paste without formatting is the easiest way for you to see what's the raw text file that a parser sees.
That makes sense.
What other keywords are there in addition to Java, MySQL, Python? Any specific performance related ones? Results driven, enthusiastic? Yeah. Again, so AI is really an extension of the human. Think about what that human's searching for. They're probably not searching for results driven or enthusiastic. So as a keyword, that might not really be something you have to worry about as a keyword, as a search keyword. as an effective bit of copy, marketing copy on your resume, yes, that can be great. Enthusiastic, results driven. Typically, when we're talking about keywords, we really mean those nouns, those proper nouns related to languages, frameworks, databases, etc., that you've acquired proficiency in. To answer your question, Maria, let me know if it doesn't. Alyssa, if you have lots of good experience for the last 10 years and it takes up an entire page of your resume, is it better to shorten each section or just leave older experiences off your resume? So at 10 years that is the dividing line between, do I go to 2 pages or do I stay on one? It's a judgment call. Is really by 12 to 15 years, you're definitely going to be on 2 pages. It's a judgment call. Typically what also happens is that professional summary grows from 2 lines to 4 lines as you go to 2 pages. You're talking about your first experience in a bit more depth. Your technology section is larger. It's a judgment call. You can try it both ways and see how you like it. From the humans standpoint, the 2-page resume is at least neutral and is likely a benefit when you're 10 plus years. Can I use the pretty resume on our website and submit the AI friendly one when I apply? Or are crawlers an important source of recruiters finding me? Crawlers are not an important source of recruiters finding you. On your website, you can put whatever pretty resume that you like. But anytime you're submitting to a company or for an interview request, hey, Janet, can you just drop by? We'd love to talk to you about a role that we have here. You ought to be using the AI friendly one. It's not just AI friendly, it's human friendly in terms of being easier to scan, easier to read. So people who are hiring, engineering managers are hiring, are reviewing 100 resumes in a day. You can imagine the cognitive load when they have to go through and guess where on this resume are different bits of information. When you use a column format or colored format or anything of that nature, it makes it harder on them versus a straight through shot of contact information, summary, reverse chronological order, work experience, education, technologies. Makes it super easy for an engineering manager to understand everything about you. But on your resume, you can do, on your website, you can do whatever you like in terms of attractive, whatever you feel is attractive. Are you going to share the presentation PDF file? Again, on site, and I'll drop it into the channel here. LMO, I'd say 10 years warrants a sole employment history. All right, not quite sure what that means. Stephanie says, I feel like a resume should only be 1 page with all the information an employer want to know about you. So personally, I feel like it's good to be more descriptive about what you did and try to squish it all in. All right. Are there things I can use for soft skills? Things like mentoring, communicating effectively with non-technical teams, et cetera. So that's, it's tough, but hey, so mentored 13 colleagues or mentored 13 junior engineers, communicating effectively with non-technical teams. What output did it have? To the extent you can say, help reduce wasted work with the marketing team as a result of better communications, or improve collaboration with product design team, leading to shorter cycle development times of 3 weeks. That can be helpful. Claire says, how should people address gaps in their resume? Really depends on what you did. If you're backpacking around the world for 2 years, you're going to have to put that, hey, backpacking around the world. If you were just simply COVID, everybody's got a little bit of a pass. for 2020. But gaps in, repeated gaps in your experience of, hey, 6 months here, 5 months there, 7 months there. Those do signal something about your professional capabilities and how you approach your career. So it's important that you include them, but they're not going to be looked at, if it's multiple, they're not going to be looked at positively. Question, does including cover letter help job application? It's really cover paragraph at this point. And what you should say in a cover paragraph is what I'm currently doing, why I'm enthusiastic about it, what I'd like to do next, and why that makes me perfect for this role. So currently a software engineer working on front-end experiences for a large-scale consumer website. I find front-end fascinating because of all the problems of having to deal with a live environment, dealing with live users, and it's really compelling to me. I'm hoping to progress in my career and find, a more senior front-end role where I can learn more about my craft. And that's why I feel that I'm perfect to work at Acme as a software engineer too, because it really helps me achieve my career goals, and I think I can help you achieve yours. That's what a cover paragraph looks like in 2021. Do you work at project managers in IT space? Really focused on IT these days, not quite project management yet. I work at a tech consulting company. How would I quantify my achievements if I work on a variety of projects? What did you deliver for the client? Or what did you deliver for the company? Helped increase sales to the clients, helped reduce the amount of time it took to deliver the insights to clients, something that improved their output. Nancy mentions one of the softwares that I will warn you, they will get your credit card and they will not let go. So I won't repeat their name. They're a known actor in the industry. If you submit a resume and the AI tries to place your work history into fields for your review and submit, and the placement doesn't make any sense, is that a sign that your resume is formatting totally wrong or the parser? 3 to 1, it's that your resume formatting is wrong. 25% chance it's the parser. Claire asks, how many bullet points is too many? Look, if you've been at one job for 6 years, you can have 9 bullet points in that job alone. If you've been at a single job 2 years, getting much beyond 5 or 6 is probably out there. Bronwyn asked, do some reviewers still print out resumes? Yes, they do. They do, if you can believe it. But not every, look, you are, by the fact that you're on for your pleasure, you're on a Zoom call talking about technical resumes at 7 o'clock at night on a Monday in January. Like, there's something very wrong with all of us that we're on this call, right? We're definitely, twisted human beings who have fallen in love with technology. And here we are chatting about this stuff because it's awesome. That is not America or the world, right? Your America or the world is like your uncles and aunts around the table at Thanksgiving in years past. Yes, they're printing things out. Absolutely. Let's see. I asked about other possible keywords, says Maria, because sometimes interviewers test you on your teamwork, your ability to work in a team, deliver results, and meet deadlines. So that's why I asked if those words should be on the resume. Yeah, they're helpful. They should probably be on a cover letter instead. That can be helpful too. So so teamwork, working on a team. Almost everybody says they're good at teamwork, or you're collaborative or something on a resume. Typically not what screeners, an engineering manager screening, is looking for. You might get a half a point for like saying something like that, but not typically what they're looking for. They're typically looking at the resume for, does this person deserve a phone screen or not? where I can try to suss out some of the interpersonal human factors. It's just difficult to convey that in a persuasive way in the written format that you're a people person. And having, myself gone through just a ton of from resume to interview, you're just always, it's random.
Can I add something?
Yeah, please. Please.
So if I say like, oh, I'm detail oriented, I'm a team player, and every single candidate puts that on their resume, it's so meaningless. Anyone can say they're great. It's when you show that you're great. So you're a team player. When you say that you mentored 3 people, you helped a junior engineer reach software engineer level because you mentored them. You added 50% more test coverage to the code base. You are illustrating how you're helping the team. You corrected bugs. You're showing you're detail oriented. That is so much more meaningful and helpful to a recruiter than saying I'm detail oriented. And I've seen people even spell that incorrectly on resumes I've looked at. Or saying you're results driven, show your results. How many new features did you finish in a quarter? Did you meet your sprint goals 100% for a quarter? What was the impact? Does your company do A/B testing? Can you show that like the features that you did increase conversion by a certain percent? At one point, I was working at a company where we're tracking actual monetary value, and I was able to look in to see all the tests that won on features that I built and actually quantify how much money I helped the company raise. I didn't mention the ones that failed, but try to understand that when you put empty things on the resume, they're empty. And when you really illustrate and show, and you may have to really brainstorm and dig to say like, oh, wait, how did I contribute? You may have thought writing tests is nothing. But if you look at your tests and just figure out what percentage of the code base they are, you can say increase tests in the code base by 10%. And now you look like a star. So you are going to have to do some work to understand what your accomplishments are. And it's a good thing to keep track of on a regular basis so that you have it when you meet with your managers and you want to talk about career development within the company. And it's important for you to have too when you work on your resume. So maybe we can do a follow-up event where we do a resume workshop, but I hope that was helpful.
That was awesome. You nailed it. You really nailed it. And look, it's not just, it's not how impressive the numbers are. The fact that you're using numbers at all really separates you, right? It just really does. Increase code coverage 10%. This person cares about code coverage. They bothered to measure it. That's awesome. I got to talk to this person. Regina says, so would you say use at most 2 columns for an AI-friendly resume? No, it's 1. You only got 1 column, Regina. Really super important. Stick to 1. Is AI also used to scan cover letters? Not particularly. Maria agrees with me. Crystal, is it normal or average for IT jobs to switch every 4 or 5 years? I would say 5 years is probably considered long now in tech. I'd say average is probably closer to 3. Jennifer, can you go over how to include roles you'd like to have on a resume? You had a header, an example, but there's no sentence like, yeah. So this is an advertisement. Great question, Jennifer. It's an advertisement. When you're walking through the mall or you're walking past walking past the food carts in New York City, it says soda, hot dog, hamburger, coffee, or whatnot. Just telling you what they have. Top of your resume, you can put senior software engineer, lead software engineer, senior software programmer. That's advertising what's in the box. What's in this a resume. and indicates what level and role that you're looking for. It's more effective than a sentence because the audience is scanning. They're just, hey, I got to hire a senior software engineer. Let me go through. Senior software engineer, great. Let me take a rest of look at this. All right, did this, that. Okay, great. I'm going to put that into the let's call pile. Or on screen, they'll put it in the let's call pile. You're just looking for the resume to be an advertisement to help you get interview requests. In person, you're going to talk about all sorts of other stuff and talk about interviews some other time. But your goal of your resume is simply to generate interview requests for a job that you can succeed in. And so that's why that top line, just kind of being that flash advertising for the roles that you're looking for, is helpful to you in generating interview requests. Should people list soft skills or only hard skills? Both, Claire, you can list both. At a software engineer 1 level, you'd list something more like a great code reviewer, or enjoy pair programming, things that indicate that, hey, rather than saying, hey, I'm a great team player, think of the things that indicate somebody's being a great team player. As you get more senior, that turns into things that managers are expected to have: excellent recruiter, talent development, things of that nature, because that shows what's important to you and what you think is important to the job. Let's see, it's 0047 here in Scotland, says Maria. I have to get up in 7 hours. All right.
We're going to take
Great.
one last question, Mark, and then I think we should wrap it up just so that you can have some of your evening back.
Yeah. Well, you might be able to tell that once I get going on this stuff, I love it. So
if you want to continue, we can stay on, but I just
I should let people go. I should let people go. Jen asks, if I'm currently live in area A and I'm aiming to relocate to area B, which location should I list in my resume? Area B. Like if you're committed to it, area B. Your spouse or significant other has gotten a job in Wichita and you're moving there from New York, just put Wichita. Even better if you can put a street address on there. If you're open to moving to Wichita, but you're not quite sure yet, then you put New York or remote. See if that works. Or maybe, but yeah, look, you honestly speaking, you don't commonly come across people who are like, it's not really true when people say I'm looking to work in New York or Wichita. Either's fine. People overwhelmingly tend to stay in the city that they're in. And so companies know that. So particularly if you're at an early level, first 10 years of your career, and you're moving to Wichita, come heck or high water, just write Wichita. Well, look, great. I have really enjoyed this. Thanks so much, Elizabeth, for inviting me. Thank you so much, everybody who attended, for coming. And thank you, Women Who Code, for helping make the world a better, more welcoming place for my 8-year-old and 4-year-old daughters. Yay. Who will be joining you guys in 15 years, I guess, 10 or 15 years.
I love their middle names, Mark. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise this evening. Great. It was amazing. Have a great night, everyone. And we will post the link to the slides eventually in the comments. And the recording, we'll get a link for that out as soon as we have it. Thanks so much. Good night, everyone.